Hey everyone, as you know, Dr. Michael Breus, the sleep doctor here. We are launching the book club, and this is my third addition to the book club. And I thought, who better to bring on than one of my dear friends, the memory master, as I like to call him, Jim Kwik. Many of you have heard me talk about Jim before, but I want to tell you a few personal things about why Jim is such a special person to me. Number one, Jim has helped my family out tremendously. Both of my children have taken almost all of his courses. I've taken his speed reading course and some of his memory courses. And I've got to tell you something, like, this stuff works. I remember I was about to take a major exam and I called Jim up and he was like, all right, let's work on it together. And he gave me the skill sets to be able to do things. So I have such a tremendous amount of gratitude for Jim Kwik. I know him personally. I know his family. I've been very, very fortunate to have him as my friend. So with that as an introduction, I wanted to introduce you all to my dear friend, Jim Kwik.
Thank you, buddy. I'm also a client and patient of yours for years. You helped me tremendously with some of the issues that I was struggling with, obstructive sleep apnea and all the travel I do, jet lag. And so you've helped me and I refer clients to you like all the time.
And I
And I know,
really appreciate it as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
So,
big fan and follower of your work. Thank you.
of course, brother. So Jim, as you now know, I know Jim pretty doggone well. And what's been great is watching he was already famous when I met him, but watching him get better and better because his sleep has gotten better and better over the course of time has really been fun for me as a doctor and as a friend, watching him move forward and succeed and do some of those amazing things that he's been doing. What I wanted to do for my audience, Jim, today is very briefly give them sort of a synopsis of how and why did you get into brain health, a little bit of your background, because I think people really need to understand where you're coming from because it's just so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't a brain coach or a memory coach wasn't one of the options that my guidance counselor uh, provided. My inspiration was my desperation. When people see me at events that you and I speak at,
Right.
we also have an annual Brain Power Conference, which you've spoken at numerous times, and a podcast, and we featured your work because it's just good. Having amazing sleep is so important for your brain, for your memory, for your focus, all the things that we train people on. Um, my inspiration was my desperation.
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old in kindergarten class, I took a very unfortunate fall. Some people would say it's fortunate just because of the end result. But because I had this traumatic brain injury, I had learning difficulties. I would have these migraines every day when I was 5 and 6. I thought it was normal. I had poor focus, poor processing. And teachers would repeat themselves over and over again, and I would learn to pretend to understand, but I didn't really understand.
Right.
Challenged memory. Um, it took me over 3 years longer just to learn the basics of how to read than on the other kids.
Oh,
When I was 9 years old, I remember I was slowing down a class and I was being teased more than usual. And
ugh.
the teacher came to my defense. She pointed to me for the whole class and said, "Leave that kid alone. That's the boy with the broken brain." And
Ugh.
yeah,
Ugh.
so those adults have to be very careful of their external words because they often become
Yeah.
a child's internal words. So every single time I did badly in school on quizzes,
Right.
tests, I would always say, oh, which was like all the time, I would say, "Oh, because I have the broken brain." Every time I was in pick for sports, I was very awkward because I had these balance issues because of my TBI, and then the person who was taking care of me, my parents immigrated to the States, had many jobs, as
Mhm.
often immigrants do.
Yeah.
So my grandmother took care of me, and she passed of Alzheimer's when I was 7. So that
Wow.
really informed my interest
Yeah.
in this area. Eventually, towards the age of 18, 19, 20, I started seeing hope because I
Really.
started to really studying. I was obsessed with this question: how does your brain work so you can work your brain? How does your
Right.
memory work so you can work your memory better? And I started studying everything from adult learning theory, multiple intelligence theory, neuroscience, even not just the current stuff, which I
Right.
still continue to do, but also ancient. like wisdom. Like, what did people do before there were printing presses and
Right.
computers? And, what did the ancient Greeks and various civilization do to remember things? And yeah, I started to teach when I was 18 years old. One of my very first students, I was tutoring. She was a college freshman. She read 30 books in 30 days.
Wow.
Not skim or scan, but really read it.
Sure.
And I wanted to find out not how. I taught her the fundamentals of speed reading and comprehension,
Mhm.
but I wanted to find out why. And I found out her mother was dying of terminal cancer,
Mhm.
and the doctors gave her mom just 60 days, 2 months to live.
Wow.
And the books she was reading were books to save her mom's life.
Wow.
And I get a call 6 months later from this young lady. She's crying hysterically.
Sure.
And when she stops, I realize that she's crying out of joy that her mother not only survived, but is really getting better. Doctors don't know how or why. They're
Wow.
calling it a miracle. But her mother attributed 100% to the great advice she got from her daughter, who learned it from all these books. And in that moment, I realized two things. I realized that if knowledge is power, then learning is our superpower. And it's a superpower we all have. And we just weren't taught. School's a wonderful place to learn, like what to learn: math, history, science, Spanish. But there's zero classes on how to learn. There's no class called
Wow.
focus and concentration, or
Right.
even memory. I always thought it should have been the fourth R in school. They teach you reading, writing, arithmetic. But what about recall? What about retention? Right?
I love
After you
that.
said learning is remembering. And so we've dedicated the past 32 years, now I'm entered in my 50s, to helping people have better, brighter brains. Our mission is no brain left behind.
I love it. That is awesome. So first of all, thanks for sharing that story for sure. Even though I knew parts of it, every time you tell it, I learn like a little new piece to it, which is always great for me. In your studies, and one of the things that you've been teaching me along the way, and I want you to teach my group of people who are listening now, what are some of the basic misconceptions that people have about memory and learning and things like that you have discovered just simply aren't true anymore?
Yeah, so there's common themes that we have is to unravel like these limiting beliefs,
Right.
this BS, which are belief systems,
Right.
and so we read it. It's we have it in our podcasts and our books, and I call them these lies, these limited ideas that we're entertaining. LIE, right? Limited ideas entertained. They're not
Okay.
true. One of them is that what coming to memory is that your memory is fixed. People believe that their memory, their IQ, they take a test when they're 8, and that's their potential when they're 88. And we know from research that memory is not fixed like your shoe size.
Right.
It can be improved. Exciting research in the area of neurogenesis, neuroplasticity says that you could create new brain cells, especially in your hippocampus, which is this kind of the center
Kind of
for
the main
memory.
place.
Yeah, the neuroplasticity is that you could grow older, but you could actually make new connections. So your brain is plastic in a positive way. It's very malleable, and you need two things, or actually three things. You need novelty, stimulus, just like working out your body.
Right.
You need to give it stimulus. You exercise. You have to give it nutrition. You need to feed that muscle.
Yep.
And same with your mental muscles. And you need sleep.
Wow.
It's really, really hard to consolidate, your short, long-term memory if you have sleep issues, with so many people, I would imagine, in not only your community, but in the world.
Yeah.
Are struggling with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think you kind of nailed it. You mentioned nutrition. I want to double tap on that one for a second.
Yeah.
I know you have an expanded version of Limitless out now. By the way, for folks out there who don't know, Jim is a New York Times bestselling author. His book Limitless is fantastic. I was fortunate because Jim sent me a copy before it came out, so I was able to go through it and really start to learn some good stuff. But I want to tell people that there's now a new expanded version of this book where he's taking things into account like nutrition, AI, all kinds of things. He's also got a quiz about brain type. So what I thought we would do is, why don't we double tap on what you have discovered about nutrition as a starting point, and then we'll start to really dig in.
Perfect. We write, especially in the expanded version, we're very proud of the book. It's
awesome.
The original book out. Thank you. It came out in 2020. Now it's over 1 million copies sold in 40 different languages. we have a whole chapter on a subject matter called neuronutrition, which is
Really?
basically the science that your brain is only about 2% of your body mass,
Right.
but it requires 20% of the nutrients. So people could learn in the book how to read faster, improve their memory, the process for focusing, for critical thinking, problem solving, all the great methodology. But that's the software. You also have to take care of the hardware,
Wow.
the 3 pound matter between your ears, right? Your brain, and it doesn't come with an owner's manual,
No,
and it's not always user friendly.
no.
So I always prefer people get their nutrition ideally from organic foods, right? It's not always possible, but there's certain great foods. So avocados
Mm.
are wonderful for the brain.
Yep.
Berries, especially blueberries, I like to call them brain berries. Broccoli, olive oil, good for the brain. If your diet allows eggs, the choline in eggs plays a vital role in brain health. It's a crucial component of acetylcholine, which is a
Right.
neurotransmitter that supports memory and cognitive performance. So that's really good. Green leafy vegetables like kale and spinach.
Right.
Your brain's is mostly fat, so think about the fatty fishes,
Like
sardines, wild
tuna,
caught
salmon, that kind of stuff.
yeah, and so that would be very. We're now throw a few more in. Turmeric, the
Mm.
curcumin is the active ingredient, helps to lower systemic inflammation that can lead to brain aging and other challenges, health challenges. Walnuts are wonderful to snack on. Walnuts
Really?
and high in vitamin E.
There you
Just a
go.
simple memory trick to remember it. I mean, a walnut happens to look like the brain,
Yeah,
right?
it does look like
Yeah,
right, actually.
and everyone's favorite, dark chocolate.
Oh, yes. Well, you
Yeah,
know my wife and you know her well.
yes,
So Jim knows that my wife eats chocolate every single
yes,
day without fail. And so he
yeah,
had to include that in there because she's going to be watching this
definitely.
later. And we all know
Yeah,
that.
dark chocolate especially.
Yes.
Milk chocolate, not so much. But generally, what's good for your mood tends to be good for your
Okay.
mind. Now, if you're not getting it from foods,
Right.
you might need to supplement. So,
Mhm.
if you're low in your B vitamins, in your vitamin D, and all these can be tested. You should do a simple nutrient profile test. And if you're not getting those fatty fishes
Do.
or flax seeds, you might want to supplement with omega-3,
Right.
especially the DHA, which is essential
Mhm.
fatty acid for your brain. Let's say you're not eating those eggs, you might want to supplement with choline,
Here.
and so on. So vitamin B, magnesium is so critical
Yeah.
for brain health, promotes learning, memory, mood. Um, and then there's this whole other area besides for cognitive health is one thing,
Little,
but then there's cognitive performance. So you and I, we speak at a lot of
yeah.
the leading biohacking conferences, and a hot topic for the past few years is nootropics
Yeah, let's get
yeah,
I'd love to, if you want, get into that a little bit
yeah,
because I think a lot of people, they saw that movie Limitless,
hmm
right?
yeah,
And they think there's this pill out there that's going to like save their brain, right? Or
yeah,
speed up their brain or do all of these things, but you've actually looked into this and you've
yeah,
started to learn
heavily.
more about nootropics. So if you wouldn't mind, can we expand a little bit on that topic in
Mhm.
particular? Because that's one I think a lot of people have
Yeah.
a great interest in.
So besides the essential the vitamins and herbs and all the things that are giving you minerals that are just giving you cognitive health,
Right.
for cognitive performance, nootropics are these substances that can enhance your cognitive function,
Really?
particularly your executive functioning, your memory, your creativity, even your motivation. So things like ashwagandha.
Mhm.
We've heard about ashwagandha. It's
Sure.
an adaptogenic herb. It improves mental and physical resilience. It may reduce stress and anxiety.
Right.
There's something I'm very excited about, which is a whole coffee fruit extract.
Oh,
It's a byproduct of the coffee plant.
okay.
Uh, it doesn't have the caffeine, but it's a very strong antioxidant, has positive impact on cognitive performance.
Yeah.
Phosphatidylserine
Mhm.
is a phospholipid.
Yep.
And basically, this is an integral part of your brain's cell membrane. It's shown to improve memory, learning, cognitive function. A few more. L-theanine.
That's a biggie
It's an
for
amino
us.
acid.
Yep.
Yes, it's an amino acid. It's often found in green tea,
Yep.
which I happen to be drinking right now. It's a popular nootropic. It promotes relaxation without the drowsiness,
Yeah.
and it can enhance your brain function. Bacopa is another
What's
one.
that? I haven't heard of Copa.
So Bacopa is an herb used in Ayurvedic
Oh,
medicine, has been shown to improve cognition and memory. Another one is rhodiola.
that
Rhodiola is
heard
a
of that.
Scandinavian herb, which has been shown to reduce mental fatigue and improve cognitive function.
Uh-huh.
Something that's very popular with exercise enthusiasts is creatine,
Yep, I've heard a
right?
lot about that. How does that affect people cognitively? Because I know how it affects on
Yeah.
the muscle side. How does it affect on the brain side?
So creatine is a substance that's naturally produced in our bodies,
Mhm.
and it's found predominantly in fish and meats.
Mhm.
It plays a crucial role in energy metabolism.
Right.
So there are a number of studies that have been shown that creatine supplementation can improve cognitive function, especially in tasks that require short-term memory
Oh,
and quick thinking. So it's one of the most studied
yeah.
nutrients in the world. And so it helps with activate your mitochondria, your ATP, energy production for your brain. I mentioned turmeric, so if you're not cooking with that, you might want to add the active ingredient
Yeah,
curcumin.
I've
It's an
seen that in
active,
capsules now. Is that something that you've
yeah,
seen?
it's anti-inflammatory. It has antioxidant and neuroprotective
Yeah.
benefits. It could lead to better cognitive function, particularly in patients with Alzheimer's. Actually,
Mm,
lion's mane mushroom is another one.
that's a
This is
biggie.
yeah, it's a unique nootropic. You see it sometimes they add it to coffee or something else.
Mm,
Really, it's powerful for its neuroprotective effects.
yeah.
Research has shown that it stimulates the synthesis of something called nerve growth factor,
Mm,
and that can enhance cognition. It helps to reduce inflammation and promotes overall brain health. Another one, ginkgo biloba, has been used
a long
for
time.
yeah, thousands of years in Chinese medicine
Yeah.
to treat various ailments, including cognitive decline. Research has shown that it can improve blood flow
Mm.
into different areas and can protect your brain from neuronal
So
damage.
that's an
Um,
example of cognitive performance versus cognitive health, right? Because what
Completely. We
oh
actually
has to
put
do with the performance.
not only do we list all of these and more in the new chapter on neuronutrition in the book,
Oh, good.
but they all have we cite all
The
the human
research.
studies.
Yeah.
Yeah, the research and the human studies. People could get an updated list of my favorite
I was
ones
just
at
going to ask.
Brain. Yeah, of course, at brainnutrition.com.
Perfect.
Brainnutrition.com. You'll see. You'll
Wow.
give you the list of both what supplements for cognitive health and also the nootropics for cognitive performance, as well as lists all the studies. So that's a kind of a free resource for your
No,
community.
that's amazing. So do you follow the same, like, do you have a particular stack that you like to use for cognitive function and for brain, or does that change as you learn more research or try new things? Like, how does that
Yeah.
work for you personally? Because people always ask me, like, Michael, how do you sleep and what do you take for sleep? So
Right. Right. Right.
I
Right.
gotta ask the memory guy the same question.
Yeah, I do. A number of the ones that I just listed are some of my go-to and my
Perfect.
favorites I take on the daily. I realized also when I was traveling once, I gave out, my supplements to somebody who needed it to perform in a certain way, and I felt the change immediately when I
Yeah.
didn't have that resource.
Right.
So again, there's no magic pill,
I
but
agree.
there is a process, right? Everybody wants to know that one thing, but we've distilled it down to about, we could talk about it, 10 different things that you're about. The book is heavily endorsed by like the founding director of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Brain Health,
Yep.
one of the top Alzheimer's researchers out of Harvard, Dr. Rudy Tanzi. And we know that about 1/3 of your brain, its expression and its potential is predetermined by genetics and biology, but 2/3 is
Right.
in your influence, and foods and
Yeah.
brain nutrition is one of those.
It's pretty amazing when you start to think about it, because you could really go down the rabbit hole on that one, because there's
Oh yeah.
so many studies and research in doing that. And I like to read like the newest and latest and greatest stuff. And that's why my next question is, I'm gonna change channels on you a little bit. I I have been trying this year to learn about AI, and because I feel like I'm going to get left behind if I don't figure this out. And like, how do I use it? And then I started wondering, like, how could AI affect our memory? How could AI affect our ability to learn? And what does that future start to look like? And I know you're actually the only person I know who's got a section in their book specifically
Yeah.
about AI and learning, number one. So I'm super excited to ask you, like, how do you see that moving forward? And what do you see are some of the hurdles or some of the wins that we're going to get?
Sure. So, yeah, there's a whole dedicated chapter dedicated to artificial intelligence. The question I was asking myself when I was writing that chapter is, how can you use AI to enhance your HI, your human
Oh, I
intelligence?
like that.
And for me, I don't treat it so much as artificial intelligence as much as I do augmented
Okay.
intelligence. I feel
I
like
like that idea.
technology is a wonderful way to augment your performance, right?
Mhm.
And so, how does it can you use it to prove your human intelligence? For me, technology is a tool for you to use, right? Like fire is a form of technology. Fire could cook your food,
Right.
or fire could burn down your home. It's really just how it's utilized and applied.
Sure.
To apply it for learning more rapidly, because I think one of the most important skills for everyone listening to master in the 21st century is our ability to learn rapidly. Your ability to learn rapidly and translate that learning to action is the most incredible advantage. Because if you could learn how to focus and remember and think and absorb and apply, you could apply that towards anything: money,
Right.
Mandarin, martial arts, music, everything in your life, marketing, everything gets easier. AI could be one of those tools that could dramatically enhance that with personalized learning. So, as examples, in the book, we showcase a number of memory techniques.
Right.
Let's say there's a note-taking process like called mind mapping. You could go to your favorite AI chat, like a GPT or something like that, and say, like, can you mind map this concept for me? And it'll
Yeah.
help produce that for you. And it's more of a whole brain note-taking technique. You talk about in the book the value of a 2,500-year-old memory technique from ancient Greece, how they used to memorize speeches,
Mhm.
and orders would remember poetry using a location method called the memory palace, where you're making a story based on familiar locations in your home or at your school
Right.
or maybe on your body. And you could go and take a very complex concept, and you could ask them to build you a memory palace, or some kind of story to help you
Right.
more likely. Because before there were printing presses, we would pass on our
Yeah.
memories and
Through
history
oral
around
tradition.
campfires. Yeah, through parables and stories,
Mhm.
because there's that imagination part, the visualization part, there's a narrative, there's an emotion, all these qualities that help you better retain information. Even when I mentioned neuroplasticity, if that's a new word for you, you could
Right.
go into again AI and say, explain to me neuroplasticity as if I am 10 years old. And what a great way of building a foundation
Sure.
for your understanding. Or explain to me neuroplasticity and relate it to a tree. And
Ooh.
something, sometimes we use metaphors and analogies to learn something, because all of learning is taking something you don't yet know, something that's on the outside, and connecting it to what you do know.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
something on the inside. Because if you can't relate something outside to what you understand, there's no scaffolding to kind of hook
Got it.
onto, or and so you could do that. We have a You could use it to give you spaced repetition. You could ask AI to give you retrieval practice, quiz you
Right.
on concepts to see if that information really
Oh, wow.
stuck.
I never thought about
Um,
that. That's awesome.
yeah,
Huh.
as I mentioned, we have a podcast, and you could go into AI and just if I'm interviewing an expert like yourself, and maybe I didn't get the book in time,
Mhm.
or I'm traveling, I could go into AI
Right.
and say, can you summarize some of the key points of this book?
Right.
So AI can be an incredible tool that we don't have to be afraid
Right.
of. Even if you want to utilize AI better, you can even you even go in there. This is
Right.
kind of meta, but how can I use AI
Right.
to enhance my understanding of AI?
Right.
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 Or if, let's say, we have a guest on, like yourself, and I say, hey, propose 10 questions that this expert has not been asked publicly,
Right.
and specifically for this
Right.
audience. And it's remarkable. And you don't use that verbatim,
Right.
but you can use it as a creative
Yeah.
springboard to build on.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So one of the things that I have a hard time with AI is my son. So you know my
Mhm.
son well, Cooper. And I say to him, he says things like, "Well, I've got to write a paper tonight, so I'm going to get Chat GPT, to help me out." right? And those
Yeah.
kind of AI tools, those large language model tools that are going on now. My concern is that kids aren't going to learn how to learn, like you were talking about. We
Yeah.
don't have that because these AI tool sets are now becoming so available to them. But do you really think that learning is going to go out of style? It seems like it couldn't,
No.
right? Like, how could it?
If anything, with the rise of AI, we've seen even more demand for these techniques and these tools and resources that we provide because it's contributing even more to this digital deluge.
Right.
There's just so much information. I'm sure your listeners, even when we think about analog, you have books on your shelf that you haven't read yet,
Right.
and it becomes shelf help, not self help.
Right.
Nowadays, keeping up with, I mean, the amount of information we have a lot of corporate clients. We serve half of the Fortune 500 companies with mental fitness and accelerated learning, helping them raise the collective intelligence of their team. I was doing a program at Google, and the past chairman said that the amount of information that's been created since human beings walked the planet to the year 2003, only about 2 decades ago, that amount of information now is created every 2 days.
Oh my God.
I mean, think about podcasts, you think about YouTube,
Right.
you think about
Crazy.
social media, there's so much content. And AI, I think the way I look at it is everybody updates their technology. You get a new television, you get a new phone, you update your apps.
Right.
But when's the last time we updated the most important technology, which is the human mind, which has created all of the other technology?
Right.
And so, I do believe that we're neglect. I'm always wearing, if for people watching this,
Yep. He always has a
like
brain t-shirt on.
yeah. Or when you and I are together and I'm taking pictures, I'm always pointing to my brain
Yep.
because what you see, you take care of. You see your car, your skin, your clothes, because you know when it's getting out of, getting messy or
Yeah.
deteriorating, but we don't see the thing that controls everything, which is
Right.
the brain. So yeah, I just want to say there's hope and there's real help out there for people. But technology does, I mean, this phenomenon of digital distraction, right?
Yeah.
It's how to maintain your focus in a world full of rings and pings and dings and app notifications, social media.
Right.
You get this dopamine flood from every like and share and comment and cat
Yeah.
video. So it's digital deluge, there's digital distraction. There's something called digital dementia, and this is a term in healthcare, saying the high reliance of technology. I mean, it's serving your phones and your devices are serving as like external memory. And here's the thing, like it keeps your schedule, it keeps your to-dos,
Right.
it keeps phone number. I mean,
I can't
Michael,
remember
how
phone
many
numbers.
phone numbers did you used to know growing up?
I knew 30 to 40 phone numbers like this.
Yeah, easily.
I know my own and I know my wife's. I don't even know my kids' phone numbers.
Yeah, and so you could be texting or calling them every single day, but if you didn't have your phone, and not that I want to make it clear, I don't want to memorize 500 phone numbers, but it should be very concerning. We've lost the ability to remember one phone number or a PIN number or a passcode or a seed phrase or something we just read.
Right.
I believe 2 of the most costly words in life are just I forgot to do it. I forgot the meeting. I forgot that appointment. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot what was said to me. I forgot that person's name. I mean, when we have these lapses, we lose time, we lose trust, we make errors. So like I'm for technology again. Technology makes your life more convenient, but it can be crippling if you're too dependent on it. It's similar as if your office is on the 4th floor, your apartment's on the 4th floor, and you take an elevator. It's very convenient, but you're not getting your steps in, right? If you take an Uber to go 8 blocks to go to the bank and you didn't walk it, and then it's convenient again, but we're not getting the exercise. And your brain, while it's an organ, it acts and responds more like a muscle. It's like my shirt says. It says use it, right? Use it or lose it.
I love that. So when we're talking about brains, this is a great transition because this is a crowd that knows how to take a quiz. Because I have told them a gazillion times to take the chrono quiz, and everybody here has gotten great value from understanding, because sleep is such a massive topic, right?
It's the most important thing arguably for, and I'm not even like you with your role as like the world sleep doctor, it's so important. But for, I say it's more important than anything else.
Yeah, you have been one of my biggest fans forever, which I appreciate. But here's the thing: is sleep is such a massive topic, and I decided to take a small slice and really dig deep, because I felt like if I could put people in categories, then they didn't have to learn all of sleep. They could learn about sleep for themselves. And you have done something somewhat similar with your brain type quiz, which I'm
Yeah.
super excited to tell people about. So everybody out there, where can they go to take the brain quiz?
It's in the book, and also people could take it for free online at mybrainanimal.com,
Perfect.
mybrainanimal.com. And the Kwik of it,
Yeah,
Kwik really is my last name. You know my father.
I do.
It's his last name. It's my grandfather's name.
I don't believe
All right,
parents.
so yeah, so yeah, and your kids are like
Exactly.
it's all family. So I would say is I realized after 3 decades of coaching, and we have students in every country in the world.
Yeah.
We get a lot of feedback, and I realized that everybody learns a little bit different, right? And it's not how smart you are.
Right.
It's how are you smart? I want to repeat
I
that.
like that.
It's not how smart you are or how smart your kids are. It's how are they smart? And everybody has a dominant way of thinking and using their brain. And so we pulled from things like personality types like Myers-Briggs to create this. We pull from left brain, right brain dominance, visual, auditory, kinesthetic learning styles, introvert, extrovert, ambivert, multiple intelligence theory. And we created, I think it's so important to know yourself.
Yeah.
Just like years ago when I took your quiz, it takes the judgment out,
Right.
and the self-judgment and the judgment of others. And also knowledge really gives you a lot of power to make good decisions in terms of with your quiz, like when to do certain things. But I realized that when we teach people to read faster, improve their memory, that some of the techniques work and some don't work as well for some people that maybe don't visualize or something like that. And so we have 4 dominant brain types, 4 buckets. We used animals.
Yes, I love animals.
Yes, partly inspired by yourself. And people like taking quizzes, like what Game of Thrones or Harry Potter character am I? That kind of thing. It takes only 4 minutes. And, and people text their family members because it's very enlightening. But I would say just really quick, 4 brain animals, brain code, CODE. The C are your cheetahs, and your cheetahs, I have a visual here.
Yeah, show us.
Cheetah.
I love it.
The cheetah, their dominant trait is action. All right. So cheetahs, if a cheetah mind, if you will, you thrive in fast-paced environments because you adapt very. Yes, exactly. You adapt very quickly in changing environments. You have strong intuition. The O in a code are your owls, and here's the representation of an owl. An owl, their dominant trait is logic. They love data. They love facts. They love formulas. They love figures, right? And they make decisions very logically, right? And just even seeing that these 2 people would live different, act different sports, they would communicate differently, they would make decisions or investments differently also, and you would persuade these people differently. The D are your dolphins, and I know this is overlap, but for me, dolphins are the creatives.
Yeah.
And so these are people that have strong visualization. They maybe, if they have a business, they could visualize. They have a vision for their impact. They are strong imagination, very strong pattern recognition. And then finally, the E are your elephants. And your elephants, their dominant trait is empathy. And these are individuals that are highly compassionate. They are your community builders. They bring people together. So an example, we had our team, a few dozen people on our team, and we had them take the assessment. And did you know, like, our entire customer support experience team, they are elephants, because these are people that have high empathy. They're very compassionate. They serve. Yes, they build the community. They want people to feel seen and feel heard. My business partner, who you know well, Alexis, she's a dolphin. She's this visionary. She has this vision for our mission, to affect 1 billion brains. Our CFO is such a strong, tested owl, right? Because this guy loves the numbers, right? And so on. So it's interesting. And you even see this in pop culture, just to give people another representation. One of the most popular sitcoms of all time, Friends, right? So Ross Geller was the professor scientist. He's your owl.
My owl, absolutely.
Yes, and you would have Phoebe, whose song and music and dance is your dolphin, right? The creative expression. You have someone like Joey, who is your cheetah. Doesn't think, just
go.
intuition, just like doesn't have to process a lot. And then finally, Monica Geller loves to host everything and wants
All
to
it
do
needs.
everything in her apartment, be the center of the friends, and she's your elephant,
Right.
right? And so I think there's a lot of power that comes when you know
Right.
yourself and having the curiosity to know yourself. So yeah, we're very excited about this assessment. I feel like it gives people a lot of choice. And then when people go through it,
Sure.
we give them a literal blueprint
That-
for how to learn faster
yeah.
based on your brain type. You could use it for parenting.
Right.
You could use it for hiring,
Well,
as we mentioned also as well. So I find it's very, very enlightening. Even when you find these individuals, they speak different also, like they communicate different, where a cheetah if they're reading, they scan and
yeah.
they skim. You would have a cheetah when they're communicating, they talk really,
Like
quickly.
my wife.
Right. They don't beat around the bush because time is, of the essence. But an owl will speak, with more
Right.
facts, and they would communicate more logic in a logical sequence.
Mhm.
They would present figures and data, and the dolphin would be more expressive.
Right.
They would talk in pictures. Their communication is infused with passion. They understand the big idea. And an elephant would be keen on understanding and validating other people's feelings and the perspective of others. They don't use they use more language that's inclusive, like we and us.
Sure.
It really emphasizing group unity. But then we'll show you how to even influence those individuals and teach those individuals and so much more.
I'm just going to repeat this back to make sure that I got it right. So you go to the quiz, which is My Animal Brain,
My brain animal.
My Brain Animal, sorry, mybrainanimal.com. And you get put into one of the 4 categories. And with that, you're given specific memory focus learning techniques for that particular category, which
Yeah,
you fall in.
even speed reading techniques based on your brain type.
I love it.
So it's kind of like if somebody is their right hand dominant, doesn't mean they don't use their left
Exactly.
hand and they can't improve it, but it's just the area they go where they're more
Yeah.
effective. Things happen
More
easier,
comfortable.
more comfortable. Yeah.
All right. I know we don't have a lot more time, but
Yeah.
before we end, I want to ask you a question because, as you know, I had my 56th birthday this year, so I'm getting old, and my wife is worried that my mind is going and my memory and my focus, and she might be right. But help us understand what goes on as we get older with our memory, and does your book address some of those
Absolutely.
particular issues? Because that's kind of where I'm headed. And I want to make sure that people know some of the cool stuff that I learned in your book.
Absolutely. So as we age, our bodies and our brains are obviously part of our bodies. They undergo changes, right? That can affect your memory and your cognitive function. Right. So where it shows up in areas, because I don't want people to feel. Now we donated all the proceeds to Limitless to nonprofits.
Oh, right. I forgot to tell people that. Yeah.
No. Yeah. We built schools fully funded Ghana, Guatemala, and Kenya, and also Alzheimer's research specifically for women in memory of my grandmother. Women are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's than men, yet a lot of the research is done on male brains, a lot of treatments on male brains. So it's something we're very passionate about. But as we age, there's a few markers. So first, in no particular order, a little bit slower processing speed, right? Aging, just like our body slows down a little bit, right. We can't maybe run as quickly or move as fast. Aging can slow cognitive processes, making it a little bit more challenging to learn new information quickly, to screen out the distractions that can interfere with memory and learning. Also, potentially there might be a reduced working memory capacity.
Right.
Working memory is your ability to hold and manipulate information in your mind over short periods. So this capacity can decline potentially as we grow older. Long-term memory challenges, maybe, especially so there's something called procedural memory, which is how you do something. And then there's something like implicit memory, which is your unconscious memory, such as your habits. They tend to remain stable, but episodic memory, when you think about episodes, this is like recalling specific events.
Got it.
So that potentially can be compromised a little bit and decline, as we grow older. And then also changes in like memory consolidation.
Yeah.
Aging can affect the consolidation of new memories, making it a little bit more challenging. And so how do you support that? There are many things you could
Sure.
do. Mental stimulation, first of all,
Huge, right?
engaging in mentally stimulating activities such as learning a new skill, learning a new language, solving puzzles, playing a musical instrument could be good. My favorite is always reading. I think reading is to your mind what exercise is to your body. And research is saying it actually can help you live longer
Ooh.
by keeping your mind stimulated. The two big cognitive dips we see
Sure.
on the, for age and stage is when people graduate school, because often people associate learning to their education, formal education. They feel like they're done learning. And also when people retire.
Yes.
When people retire, they often retire their minds, and unfortunately their bodies are not far behind. And so there's a study done with nuns that were living 80, 90 and above, and they wanted to find out what was their key to longevity. And half of it was their faith and gratitude, more emotional component. But the other half, they were lifelong learners. They were reading, having deep conversations and debates every day. And because of it, add years to their life and then life to their years. It was on the cover of Time magazine. I remember the study was called Aging with Grace, which I think is a beautiful name of a study.
Wow.
Another thing we could do is physical exercise. I mean, there's so much research showing that physical exercise could help boost your brain power. Regular physical activity, especially cardiovascular exercise, increases blood flow, which increases oxygen to your brain. When you exercise, resistance training, you create dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, like these neurotransmitters that are important for cognitive health and performance. You also, when you exercise, I say when your body moves, your brain grooves.
Yeah, I like that.
So when you exercise, you create something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factors, which is like fertilizer for neuroplasticity. Some of the activities that are walking, swimming, cycling, racket sports are incredible, like table tennis or pickleball. I know your wife is very, very active.
She is very active in tennis and pickleball.
And dance, ballroom dancing, Latin dance is so wonderful for the brain. And so that's physical activity. And then a couple just really quick things to mitigate the brain aging challenges. Nutrition, we covered,
what about hydration? Isn't hydration a big one?
Yeah. So on our podcast, we talked about this recently. Our show is only 20 minutes long. No sponsors or anything. People can listen to it, and it's just kind of binge listen to it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Just being 2% dehydrated could affect your cognitive health and performance. And staying hydrated could boost your reaction time and thinking speed upwards of 30%.
Really? So just staying hydrated.
Yeah, you'll notice I'm drinking throughout this conversation, especially first thing in the morning, because you could lose up to a pound of water through respiration and perspiration while you sleep. And so staying hydrated, your brain, we know, is 75 around there, 75% water. And so stay hydrated. And then the last thing I'll mention is a couple social engagement.
So important.
A lot of times without that social interaction, it definitely could help reduce depression, stress, which can contribute to memory loss, right? Being socially active, who you spend time with is who you become. It could help reduce the negative effects of loneliness and so much more. And in the same kind of category, managing our stress. Chronic stress has been shown to shrink the human brain. When you're in fight or flight, you're creating cortisol, adrenaline. If you're in that fight or flight too much, it also holds you hostage in your survival brain, and it keeps you away from your executive function, your creativity, your ability to solve problems. Chronic stress could damage your hippocampus, which is, again, the part of your memory involved in memory formation and retrieval. So I don't know what you do for stress management, but meditation, deep breathing exercises, for me, nature, what a wonderful way of doing that. And then, I mean, again, this list would be incomplete if we didn't talk about, sleep. Sleep is crucial, as you know, for memory consolidation, short to long-term memory. When you sleep, some research suggests the sewage system in your brain kicks in. You clean out that beta amyloid plaque that could lead to brain aging challenges. It's also where you dream. There's so many. Your brain doesn't shut off at when you sleep. If anyways, sometimes it's a little bit more active in some areas, and people don't realize this. Mary Shelley came up with the idea of Frankenstein in her
Yeah, I
dreams.
know. Isn't that
You
crazy?
know, yeah, Paul McCartney came up with this song Yesterday in his dream. A chemist created the framework of the periodic table in his dream. Elias Howe created the sewing machine in his dream. So like, so that's why, that slow wave, that REM sleep, so very important. If people in the book, we teach people how to remember their dreams, because a lot of times people forget their
Yep.
dreams, and so that all that is kind of lost. But yeah, and then just memory training in general. We have a memory program that's,
I've done it.
you know,
It's awesome.
yeah, 30-day program on teaching you literally science-based
Yep.
tools and ancient wisdom to remember names, client information, product information, where you put the keys,
Right.
remember, give speeches without notes, learn another language, and so much more. But just remember this, there's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and there's an untrained
I like
memory.
that.
And, we're all about getting people mentally fit.
I love that. And Jim, I love you. You're awesome, bro. Guys, this has been such an informative period of time. You don't understand. Jim's one of the busiest people that I know, and getting him for this amount of time, and what a knowledge, dump that was fantastic, dude. I'm so excited for everybody to see it. If folks want to learn more, number one, I want to be clear. Everybody should buy the book. I want to be super clear about this. There's no way this book doesn't help you in some way, shape, or form.
It's a literal no-brainer.
I like that. It's a literal no-brainer. But if folks want to learn more about you and stuff like that, where do they go?
Yeah, the book is an owner's manual for your brain, because your brain, every technology comes with some kind of instructions. So this shows you how to use your brain the best way. We have a podcast. So if anyone listens to podcasts, just search my name, Jim Kwik. You just have to spell it right, Kwik. We're nearing 100 million downloads this year. And just, it's a wonderful academy.
Also your YouTube channel.
YouTube, we have over 1.5 million subscribers there. We put the extended version of our podcast. You'll see a number of videos of you and I on there, going deep in so many categories that you're just, world renowned and expert at also as well. And social media.
Absolutely.
I'd love for everybody to actually take a screenshot of this, and post it and share like one thing you're going to do for a better brain. We talked about a lot in terms of some of the brain foods, some of the supplements, taking care of your sleep, managing your stress, all these different things, and tag us both in it so we get to see it.
Please do.
And mine everywhere is just at Jim Kwik, and I'll repost some of mine at random, and I will gift out a few copies of Limitless to your community as a thank you for having me. I really appreciate you, Michael. I can't tell you like what you've meant. Not just your expertise, but your friendship over the years.
Thanks, brother.
And helping my family out with issues and our clients. So you've been an amazing resource. I'm not hard to find. 95% of what we publish is free. We do have an online courses, and people can find that online also as well. But then those two sites I mentioned for free resource is kind of essential. brainnutrition.com to see the latest research and recommendations on things that could help you and your family, your team in terms of supplementation. And then our quiz, mybrainanimal.com, and you'll get a blueprint on how to perform at your best and feel your best based on your specific brain type.
I love it. This is awesome. So for everybody out there, do me a favor, go on to social, follow Jim, check out the YouTube stuff. He and I together have done some awesome stuff on YouTube, and please take the quiz. Okay. You know how I am about quizzes. I love them, but it really is such a wonderful tool to give you the information that is going to be most valuable for you. So everyone out there, I want to say thanks again. This is Dr. Michael Breus, the sleep doctor, and my dear friend, Jim Kwik. We're all wishing you guys sweet dreams, and buy the book.